It's the spring of 2020. Cities across America are emptying out. In Boston, moving trucks crowd the streets as renters flee the urban core to wait out the lockdowns. By every rule of economics, when thousands of people leave a city, apartment prices should plummet. But that's not what happened to Boston renter Kaylee Hutchinson. Despite the exodus happening right outside her window, her building's management informed her that her rent was going up by 6.5%, and the property manager flat out refused to negotiate. Kaylee wasn't alone. As researchers would later discover, this exact scenario was playing out nationwide. In major metro areas across the United States, rent prices held steady and then surged by double digits in a matter of months. The basic law of supply and demand seemed to have broken down entirely. Millions of people were losing their incomes and abandoning expensive cities, yet the cost of staying was skyrocketing. Something invisible was overriding the American rental market. It's easy to blame this crunch entirely on inflation or a nationwide housing shortage. Those things definitely squeeze the market, but they don't explain the sudden, coordinated refusal of landlords to lower prices when units sit empty. To find the real anomaly, you have to look closer at individual neighborhoods. In one Seattle zip code, investigators at ProPublica found that 10 different property management companies controlled 70. For decades, property managers set rent manually. A leasing agent might call up the building down the street, check their rates on a paper napkin, and adjust their own prices slightly to stay competitive. Then, RealPage introduced YieldStar, a software platform that promised landlords they could outperform the broader market by 3 to 7%. To achieve that, RealPage required a massive data pipeline. Competing landlords continuously feed their most sensitive private information into the software, real-time data on actual rents paid and vacant units. The algorithm digests this competitor intelligence and beams synchronized, escalating daily price recommendations back out to the supposedly competing landlords. By 2017, RealPage acquired its main rival, Lease Rent Options. This merger allowed the company to reach critical mass, pushing their client base to tens of thousands of properties, managing millions of rental units. Human leasing agents were no longer guessing what the market could bear. They were outsourcing their pricing power to a centralized system that guided an entire neighborhood of landlords to raise rents in perfect lockstep. The software was specifically designed to remove human psychology from the equation. RealPage developers even noted that leasing agents often had too much empathy for renters. To counter this, the platform featured an auto-accept setting, allowing property managers to automatically adopt the algorithm's daily price hikes without second-guessing them. But the most aggressive part of the strategy was how the algorithm treated vacant apartments. Traditionally, a landlord with empty units drops the price to get a paying tenant. RealPage executives actively encourage their clients to do the exact opposite: leave the unit empty and raise the rent on everyone else. Look at this chart to see how the math of net operating income actually works. On the left, a building is 98% full at a standard rent price. On the right, the same building chooses to operate at 94% capacity, but charges an inflated rent to the remaining tenants. Because the rent hike outpaces the loss of a few renters, the total profit ends up higher. The algorithm showed property owners that the most lucrative path forward was to actively manufacture scarcity. By intentionally withholding empty apartments from the market, they could squeeze maximum profit out of a worsening housing crisis. The government eventually noticed the math. In 2024, the Department of Justice, along with multiple state attorneys general, launched a massive antitrust lawsuit against RealPage to dismantle the pricing system entirely. Attorney General Merrick Garland accused the company of facilitating a digital cartel, alleging the software allowed landlords to coordinate prices as effectively as the smoke-filled rooms of the past. The DOJ calls this a hub-and-spoke conspiracy. RealPage is the central hub, landlords are the spokes. If a person named Bob collected confidential data to dictate prices, it's a federal crime. Replacing Bob with automated code doesn't make this arrangement legal. The lawsuit established a clear marker. Antitrust laws apply to algorithms just as strictly as they apply to traditional backroom price-fixing deals. The financial fallout was immediate. Facing a wave of private class action lawsuits, 14 major housing companies quickly sought to settle, agreeing to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to impacted renters. At the same time, states like Arizona and the District of Columbia secured binding agreements that permanently stop landlords from feeding non-public competitor data into the software. By late 2025, RealPage reached a settlement with the DOJ. While the company admitted no wrongdoing, they agreed to legal guardrails that completely restructure the data their software can collect and how it formulates prices. This case establishes how antitrust laws apply as AI agents take over pricing in sectors from airlines to hotels. It signals to any company using automated systems that they remain liable for the market outcomes those algorithms produce. A free market only works if competitors actually compete. Corporations can no longer use the complexity of artificial intelligence as a shield for illegal collusion.